Now let's talk about something far more joyful. 100 days out, he's my friend, Fox Sports soccer analyst, former United States men's team's middle fielder, Stu Holden is joining us. I love when Stu Holden comes on my show. All right, so I was saying that this is my concern. So I think this is the most skilled team we've ever had. It is the youngest United States men's national team. I think there's value to youth. They don't have any negative vibes from previous failures. You don't know what you don't know when you're young. You can be reckless, but also hyper-aggressive. You don't have legacies to protect. I mean, these guys, they're all like 21, 22, 23. Generationally, they all like the same music. They all use the same devices. This has the potential to be an incredibly close-knit team. So that's my positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it does. This team, you think about it, and if you go all the way back to the failure to qualify for the World Cup 2018, the lowest moment in U.S. soccer history, from those ashes has come this group of players with almost that feeling of responsibility of, hey, we need to get this program back to where it was. We're starting from fresh.
We're starting over.
Absolutely. And forming their own identity along the way. And then you think about within that, there was going to be players from those past failures, the Josie Altidores, Michael Bradleys, that might have been a part of this cycle. COVID came along, no games for a year for the national team. And all of a sudden, Greg Berhalter's got this dilemma of, what do I do here? Do I still have some of these 30, 32-year-olds, or do I just roll the dice and trust this young group and let them figure it out? And that's what they did. Now, it wasn't perfect. They finished third in qualifying. They didn't win the whole group, but they go into the World Cup with expectations of getting out of this group and leaving their mark on this tournament.
Now, again, soccer fans are very funny. Because
yes, we are. Yeah. Funny is a nice word for us.
So, and I say this for years and years, and I think it's a reasonable criticism. They felt ignored.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they kind of created their own cool-like vibe. And then when we would be casuals, come in and have opinions, they eat you alive on social, which I think is funny, and I'm here for it. But we talked about this before you came on the air. There is a certain vibe among soccer fans that they're very reluctant for the rest of us to love this team for 3 weeks like they love it all year.
Yes, we stand in the corner in the shadows and we desperately scream and yell, hey, pay attention to us, look at us. And then all of a sudden, the spotlight comes on us, and we want to welcome people in. But then as soon as you talk about it and you don't know the specifics about a 4-3-3 and tactical formations and positional changes, we start screaming back at you and saying, you don't know it like we do. I always equate it, and I know Alex will know this very well, with we saw the indie band before they made it big. And then as soon as it went big, well, we scream at you for not knowing the songs that they knew before and how good they were before they made it big. And that's who we are. We eat our own. We want to welcome you into the conversation. Colin, I think you do a wonderful job, even for having soccer as a big part of what you do in your show. And you're pretty open and admit the fact that you don't know the minutia of the game. And that's okay. But we want people like you paying attention to us and loving the sport in the way in which we do. So soccer fans, come on, man.
No,
open up the tent.
When I watch this team aesthetically, I think Berhalter sees the skill level. He sees the speed. It's a quick team. It's a fast team. We're athletic. We're young, a bit naive. We're not as physical at times as I'd like. Defensively, I have questions. We're a hands country. We've always been good in goal. This is the weakness of the team. I don't love them in goal, but I see that as a value proposition. We are aesthetically, what I see, way more skilled than any team in my life. So that's my naive opinion.
Yes, no, and it's a correct opinion, because this team and this nation, the way in which we've invested in soccer, Major League Soccer, development academies, the amount of money that has gone into it, it's taken time to see the benefits of that and the development of these young players. So Greg Berhalter, when he took over early on, boy, did we take some lumps. We played Mexico. We tried to play out of the back. And I remember the game was 2019 in Giant Stadium. We got hammered 3-0, just destroyed by our biggest rival. But he was calm. He saw the bigger plan, the bigger scope of what he was trying to do. And this team was skilled. It was young. It was aggressive. And we could play in that way, but we had to get through ways, some of these lumps on the way. I mean, our teams back in 2010, what I think was one of the better teams, we defended deep. We were hardworking. We didn't want to concede goals. This team's like, we are young, we are skilled, we can play aggressive, and we can play in the faces of some of these big countries. And that's a big change for us.
No, this is the thing that jumps out to me, is that I can tell what a coach thinks of his personnel by the game plan. And I do think that the Clint Dempsey teams were and I think he's the one old school guy this team could use, a bit of a butt kicker. I don't think Weston McKennie, he's got a little bit of an edge to him, but he's not quite. I think we need a Draymond Green. We need a bouncer in the bar, a tough guy, because I think Pulisic is increasingly getting picked on. People see him as the Gretzky in hockey, and Gretzky needed an ally to defend him. So, but this team, when I watch this team and I watch how Berhalter is hyper-aggressive, willing to concede on the back end, my takeaway is, he trusts his talent. The stylistically, how we play, soccer fans would get upset when we would play Brazil or a Chile and we were conservative. And my takeaway was, we have to be. We could play with Italy, mostly a defensive-minded history. We couldn't go with, you know what I mean? So here's my question. Can we be aggressive against England, perhaps the deepest team they've had in 2 decades?
So I watched Greg on your show a couple of weeks ago when he came by, and he talked about that game, the England game, and saying, hey, that might be one game we have to play a little bit differently and play a little bit more conservatively and pragmatic. And I would be okay with that. But I also see it as a situation. England's going to come into this tournament. Their last window, they got beat by Hungary at home. They're not looking good. They're searching for answers. They're undoubtedly the favorite in the U.S.'s group.
Really deep.
But I see that game as a group in the World Cup on November 25th, Black Friday. I think a large portion of this country will be interested in watching that game. That's a game that the U.S. could surprise some people. And I would love to see, if the U.S. beat Wales, which I think is the most important game, you have to win your first game in the group. Then you go into England. If you have a win or a point out of that first one, go at those guys. Let the young guys go. They're fearless. And I think they like to play that way, with the handbrake off a little bit, but still with some smarts and some savvy and understanding this is a World Cup, this is a tournament, so don't just blow it out and concede 2 or 3 goals early. But I want this young team to play aggressive, because why? That's who they are. That's their identity. And the best coaches get the best out of the players that they have, and that's who those players are.
In the NBA, it used to be you hated your rivals. MJ hated Isaiah. He hated the Pistons. He hated Bird. Generationally, they've all got the same agents. They all make money. They're not sharing a small pie. So NBA guys now, they're all boys. They all get along. That's okay. Here's my concern about this team. There is no older player. Now, Weston McKennie's got a chip. I wouldn't mind if it was bigger. I worry that they're all buddies. They're, again, same music, same likes. At 23 years old, the generation my generation, I battle my rivals. Are we too nice? Does this team have an edge?
This team has an edge, but I would say this team does not have a outright leader. And Greg Berhalter,
Pulisic's the best player.
Yes, he's the best player, but he's not the guy that is going to, in moments he has. I don't know if you remember the Panama game. I know you're watching it in qualifying.
Yeah.
He scored a hat trick. He was playing with that look in his eye that was, nothing is going to stop me today. I don't know what they need to do. If we can harness that for him, he's unstoppable. But Greg Berhalter has rotated who's the captain of each game. You've had Tyler Adams, you've had Pulisic, you've had McKennie. And I think that's still trying to figure out, hey, who's my guy that everybody in a tough game, and I've been in these games as a player, and you're kind of looking around and you're looking for somebody to look you in the eye, the Draymond Green, that say, hey, you know what, this game right now, it needs me to go and just smash somebody.
Right.
It needs me to go and make a play.
That was a Dempsey role.
100%. It was a Bocanegra. We had Tim Howard in goal, a guy that you knew would come up with a big save if you needed it. I've yet to see that really emerge through qualifying. And it speaks for the fact that the biggest questions about our team and our starting 11 going into the World Cup, goalkeeper, Zach Steffen or Turner, I don't know. Center backs, you're going to have questions, Zimmerman plus who, I don't know. And forward, we don't know who our center forward's going to be at this point. It's probably going to be Ferreira. But outside of that, I mean, your midfield's as steel cast. You can write that in right now, who's going to start in the first game against Wales. But outside of that, I think we're still searching for some answers.
Ferreira's an interesting player. I feel like I know what I'm going to kind of get from. I don't like the situation at goal. I'd go Turner. Don't love it. But again, we've been so great at that for years, and it didn't pay off. In the end, you got to score goals.
Yeah.
Nobody's shutting down England. They're going to score. So my takeaway is we're not great at it. Can we be competent? I think the answer is yes. Walker Zimmerman in the back, Long in the back. We'll be okay. But I think we're better up front. My question is, what does he need to be? Ferreira, what does he have to be? Because I know what I get from Pulisic. I don't know what I get from him.
So I would say the question about Ferreira is an interesting one, because you could say, who's the most important player to the U.S. having some success? I could name Pulisic, I could name McKennie, I could name Tyler Adams, but Ferreira, and it doesn't just have to be goals with him. This was a game he actually scored 4 goals in a match against Grenada. But the job of the center forward in Greg Berhalter's system, and this is why you have to trust Greg Berhalter that he's doing the best that he thinks for the team with the personnel he's got. That position, oftentimes you drop a little bit deeper. You try to bring defenders with you to open up space in behind for Pulisic, for Aronson, for Tim Weah. So it doesn't always have to be about the goals in the system that we play. France won the World Cup in 2018. Do you know how many goals their striker, Olivier Giroud, scored in that tournament? 0. Not a single goal from the number 9 position. So I know we scream and yell and we think, hey, strikers have to score goals. They can do a lot if you have the pieces around that can produce. Our most talented players, as you know, are in the wide areas. We have depth beyond belief. We can rotate Gio Reyna and Pulisic and Aronson, all these guys. The number 9 position, though, you have to be effective, either scoring goals or holding up the ball, linking up play. That's why Ferreira's in the lineup. Not because I think Greg thinks this guy's going to score 6 goals.
Yeah, I don't think the team's complete yet. They can tweak it up until
up until the very end. I'm 26 this time as well, the roster.
Do you think, I don't think it's done yet.
No, I mean, September, we're going to find out. We got 2 games left. The last 2 games you're going to see the U.S. We have the game against Saudi Arabia, which will be
Japan
their last
and Saudi
game.
Arabia, last 2 friendlies.
And you're going to get a look. I think you might see this guy, Vasquez, who scored 14 goals in MLS. Striker is a position. If you're red hot and you got that hot hand, you might work your way into the roster.
Okay, it really is amazing. So you got Pulisic's 23, played Chelsea. You got McKennie's 23, Juventus. Sergio Dest 21. Tyler Adams 23.
You trying to make me feel old, by the way?
It really. But here, I'll throw this at you. And when we went to Brazil, the conditions were daunting. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an argument to be made. Qatar, it's going to be really warm. And I do think it benefits our youth. We're going to be young, fresher legs. My guess is we're kind of built for these conditions, or am I being too patriotic and jingoistic and optimistic?
You're right. I mean, the one of the interesting things you're going to see in Qatar is these air-controlled, climate-controlled stadiums with these big fans that blow on the field. And it was amazing. During the summer, it was 110 degrees out. They played a game inside the stadium. A player took a selfie with a thermometer, and it showed that the temperature on the field was 65 degrees. So it's about a 40-degree difference from outside to in. Actually, during the winter, the temperature is going to be about LA's in the 70s. I think, an area where the United States can have a real edge is in sports science, and the fact that we invest a lot of money in that. I went to the U.S. practice in Kansas City, and they call them red hats or red shirts because there was the staff around. There was more staff than players, and I'm talking physiotherapists, sports scientists, and tracking data and the rest and recovery for these guys. This is going to be the first World Cup where teams do not have to travel outside of one single city. So you're going to go to a game, you're going to come back. You're going to go to a practice, you're going to go back. You'll be in the same hotel the entire time. So that means the U.S. is loading up with a game room. They're going to have, all the stuff that these kids, these 20-year-olds want. Yeah. They have Xboxes and PlayStations and rest and recovery centers, hypothermic chambers. I mean, the U.S. is going to throw big money at that to ensure that they can maybe find an edge that other teams don't have when it comes to investment in that stuff. I think that's where we could find an edge.
The World Cup, for the uninitiated here, is a little like 2 tournaments. You have group stage. Mm-hmm. So our group is England, arguably the best team. I don't think they'll win it. It's England.
They're going to expect to win it.
But I don't think they will. But I think they're really talented. I think they can play with anybody. And then we have Iran and then Wales. Wales is viewed as the smallest. It's the weakest team. They have one great player, right?
Gareth Bale.
Okay, so my feeling is the World Cup becomes 2 tournaments. There's group stage. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're the second most talented team. I think we get out of the group stage. Realistic,
and that should be the baseline expectation. Every single World Cup, and I would have said that before, but then we didn't qualify for the World Cup.
Right.
So, Greg Berhalter, again, he was talking to you. He said, we view this as 2 tournaments. You get through the group stage. It's kind of a slog it out, and you find your way. You manage the 3 games. You're probably rotating lineups to get the best versus each team. Your first game's the most important. And then I think, Greg, and I would agree, the last game against Iran is also a game you view, we need points out of that one.
Yeah.
England, we go in and we try and run it up, and that's the team that we're going to finish first or second, and it will determine who we get in the second match, which would be us paired with the host group, which is Qatar, Ecuador, and then you have the Netherlands in there as well. And I think Netherlands is the team you would want to avoid out of those, and maybe you get Ecuador. Netherlands is I think they're back this year. They didn't qualify for the last World Cup. They were in the final in 2010.
Well, yeah, it should be noted. We all get anxiety. Last World Cup, who didn't get
Italy didn't make it. Netherlands didn't make it.
Think about Italy, how big soccer is. So, by the way, Germany's had downswings.
2 straight World Cups for them. Crazy.
So this is not, I really do feel like if you're a soccer fan or me, a casual, as I would be called by you indie rockers, that I do believe this is exciting because I feel like there was the Kyle Rote Jr. stage of soccer where we couldn't compete. Guys didn't play internationally. Then there's the Stu Holden, Dempsey, Alexi Lawless. Some of our guys do play internationally, may not star, but they play. Now we're getting guys that go internationally and are viable scorers. Stars.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 stages in my life. Now, I think the next World Cup is the one where, and this, I sound so patriotic here. I think we're about 4 years away, just in experience. But I think we get out of the group stage. I think we win a game out of the group stage. And I think we're really viable. That is my hope. Again, how does it land for you? What will you see that will concern you? If you see something early and go, uh-oh, what would it be?
So the game against England is a game where we're going to find out a lot about
day after
this
Thanksgiving.
Team. Yes, the day after Thanksgiving on probably the best lineup of sports television. Sound like a company man now, but that we're going to have the Cowboys Thursday.
That's crazy.
And then Ohio State, Michigan on the Saturday. So look, I think what I worry about with this team is that they are so young. They're fearless. They don't know what they don't know until they see it. And we're going to find out when those bright lights go on and you're on the World Cup and you're the big stage against a Welsh team that is competent. They had a good run at the Euros, not the 2020 version, but the one before that in 2016. And I hope, and I don't believe it is going to be this way, but I hope that I see that look in those eyes, the guys that we belong here. And we're not happy to be here and be happy to be back at a World Cup. And we're these young guys and we play at big clubs, but we're not expected to go far. I think this team, when you get to the knockout stages and you get rolling, you pick up some momentum. They have players that play against the best players in the world week in, week out at Barcelona, at Chelsea, at Borussia Dortmund, etc. So we have talented players. As a team, collectively, do they believe in themselves? And do they not make those little fine margin mistakes at the back or at the goalkeeping position where we might have a little bit of inexperience or guys that aren't playing regularly? That's the thing that concerns me a little bit.
Has a team ever won the World Cup with poor goaltending? Has anybody ever been bad in the net? And you don't have to be great.
I'm trying to think here. Now France had Hugo Lloris. Yeah. Germany had Manuel Neuer. 2010, Spain, David De Gea, I believe it was, or Iker Casillas. I mean, no. I would say no.
Yeah, I think it is our primary liability, although I think Turner's capable. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel.
But the problem is he's at a world-class club in Arsenal, but he might not be playing. And Alexi and I were debating this the other day. He actually might benefit from the fact that he's not playing because Zach Steffen is playing and he's not playing well.
Right.
So do you go with the guy who hasn't made mistakes? Probably. I don't know. A lot to discuss, huh? It's exciting.
Yeah, and all you soccer fans out there, you have to just embrace the fact that you saw the indie band before I did. You've memorized. Hey, I'm from Nirvana, grew up 30 miles out of my hometown. I knew of Nirvana before anybody else. I didn't hold it against people. Pearl Jam. I'm a Northwest guy with all the grunge rock. I didn't hold it against people. It's so great seeing you. This is an exciting time. And
100 days. Crazy to think about.
Here, one more thing. I have defended Greg Berhalter a lot on the internet. Doesn't always go well. Why do you think soccer fans are always... I have a psychology theory on it. It is much easier to blame our coach than our players. Mm-hmm. If you blame players, it's we're not good enough, we're hopeless. If you blame a coach, it's all we have to do is fix the one guy and we're great. If I said to you, Berhalter, what defines him? I think he's aggressive. I think he's a listener. I think by, the John Brooks thing, he can make tough calls. How do you define him?
I would say he's authentic. And by that, I mean... he understands. He's an American coach that has played in a World Cup for the United States. So at the forefront of that, and arguably, actually our most successful run in 2002. So he understands what the American player needs, and he's also a guy that's willing and able to adapt.
Yes, he's a good adapter.
Yes, and I think some coaches get so laser focused and the blinders are up about what they think needs to be successful, and he has changed and evolved. He's let some of his core principles go a little bit. He's let the group find their way. And I think that's why he's been a good coach for this group, because he's evaluated the best players that he's got. He's gotten the most out of them, which says a lot as a coach. He's been willing and able to adapt. And ultimately, look, there will always be this Euro bias of, hey, we need to go hire this guy because he's coached in the Premier League and this guy's done this. So, no coach has ever won a World Cup that has not been from that nation.
Wow.
So, you think about all the different coaches going in the past, and we could go and get Pep Guardiola. He would be the first coach from a foreign nation to lead a team to a World Cup.
Great seeing you.
Great to see you, man.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.